It is 7:45 in the morning, and I am still in my fluffy cloud, my wonderful down blanket, duvet cover. It just feels so nice. I wrap it around myself like a cloud. But the point here is it's almost 8 o'clock, and a lot of folks will be at work at 8 o'clock and have to travel too. So if I was to try to get to work right now, I would have to jump out, skip a shower, skip breakfast, um, and just drive right there, and I could probably make it for 8. However, I'm not going to do that today. Lately, I've been exploring just this idea of not being in the hustle and bustle. So there's a couple different factors to that. One is just being on time to work, if you have to be on time. In my particular job, I'm salary, so I get the job done type of thing. I don't have and even the folks that are working on the clock, unless they have arrangements where they have to be there at a certain time, it's more like they need to get a certain number of hours done. And typically the idea is 40 hours, right? So on a lot of days, I've spent many days of my life jumping up, curtailing the amount of sleep I want to get because I need to get up and get going. And so, I've rushed breakfasts, I've rushed showers, I've had a rushed mentality, I've had that voice in my head of like, I need to be there at this time, I need to be there at this time, and just really not enjoying the morning. And then the other factor is when you're at work, just killing yourself and going so fast. I use Outlook tasks, and so I won't go into the detail of all that, but I'll have I'll have a wall of tasks in my Outlook email server, and I will just go through there and do tasks a certain way with certain strategies, and I still do, but sometimes I'd feel like I'd just be pushing myself to do a lot of stuff. And then sometimes, if you want to bring in synchronicity, I would be asynchronous or out of synchronicity. I would be doing the wrong things at the wrong time just because I'm obliging a rule of getting there at the certain time, or just needing to rush too many things because they're on my list, even though I would feel intuitively that's really not what needs to get done right now. And so lately, as we've been moving in the human ascension from third density to five density, I have a couple coworkers, and we'll take a walk. So that's the other thing too. We'll go take a walk, just 10-minute walk, clear our heads, talk with each other. And I notice we make a lot of comments about how we're trying to justify whether we can even take this walk or not, because everybody else is sitting in their cube dutifully, very compliantly, I guess, according to someone's rules. And sometimes you'll have someone will make a comment like, "Oh, I see you guys walking," almost trying to steal your freedom, make you feel bad about it, or just wondering if they could have that freedom. But anyhow, there's all that guilt and shame of doing that. But I mean, and then there's that auto defensive thing, like, oh, I got to defend why I'm taking this walk. So, I mean, some of the defense mechanisms could be like, well, sometimes we talk about work when we're on those walks, or we're building camaraderie, or we have a hybrid schedule. So sometimes we're all in the office together. In fact, there's one day of the week that we're all in the office at the same time. It's Wednesday. And so we get to walk together. So, it's like we're making arguments about this little modicum of freedom. And I think as we move into the new era, the new earth, that's just going to look ridiculous. A lot of the stuff I'm hearing right now is that we don't reflect enough, we don't meditate enough, we don't take enough time for ourselves. And particularly in this time period, the time that I'm making this video is December 2024. And all the stuff I'm listening to on YouTube is like self-care, take time for yourself. There's going to be a lot of chaos in 2025, but you won't really be a part of it if you can be in a whole different dimensional space in your head. So just prepare for that by taking care of yourself and not worrying about it. So I've actually noticed this. Yesterday I mentioned it to my coworkers. I said there was 2 instances. See if I can recall them. One is just driving into work yesterday and some other days. I know I'd have things to do, but I just didn't feel like my ego wasn't riding me about the worry of it. It felt like I had left the worry somewhere. Maybe I detached from the worry somehow, or I had processed it through, and I just have this mentality of, okay, I'm going to go in, and there are going to be things that I get to do, if you want to do the get to versus have to, which is always funny because someone's like, oh, you don't have to do it, you get to do it. It's like, yeah, there is a certain amount of see the cup half full and look at the opportunities in front of you and say, this is what life is serving up for me. And as Bashar would say, um, the being Bashar that channels through Daryl Anka would say, if it's in your reality, it's something for you to process. But then I think, too, we get into these stagnant patterns where we are basically forcing ourselves to make too much lemonade out of lemons and not just changing our lives. We're trapped in a mindset that just says, this is where you're going to be for the rest of your life. You're going to work a 40-hour-a-week job for the rest of your life. Whereas, again, my coworkers, I'm always telling them, I'm like, yeah, I think there is a future where we could work just 5 hours a week. You know, just volunteer our time, and money's not an issue, and free energy is here, and the cost of living. And it's got too many variables in it for people to really, they just look at it and kind of roll their eyes when I say stuff like that. But because it's got too many obstacles in their mind. But I'm like, well, then you fix this, and then that fixes, and then this, well, that'll never happen. Anyhow, but so if you just worked a certain number of hours and volunteer your time, you would be pretty unhurried. You could really reflect on what you want to do. You could put your heart into what you're doing, and you would get to do what you really want to do versus kind of having to do a lot of stuff that, again, in a future state, there's a lot of things I do on my job that I'd be glad to hand off. In my mentality now, would be hand off to another person, or in a slightly more future reality, hand off to AI, where someone can really just mimic all the stuff that I was doing, that could be mechanical in a future state where AI can handle all those maneuvers, and I'd be happy to hand them off. I was telling him, I'd be happy to, if people in society, if everybody didn't work, well, who's going to serve you coffee at Starbucks? It's like, well, if everybody really values having Starbucks coffee, then I'd be happy to volunteer 4 hours. If someone tapped him on the shoulder and said, Nicholas, would you come in for 4 hours? Work this Starbucks kiosk. We'll show you how to use these cool gadgets and make this stuff. And I didn't have a lot of other obligations. I'd be happy to, because it would be fun for me to go and learn that stuff and then serve people, and then do that for a couple months, 4 hours a week, and then say, all right, I've done that, I'm tired, find another volunteer. And someone else might say, serving coffee ain't my thing, I'm not really into the hospitality and serving food, but maybe they would love to drive a tractor and help build some bridge that needed to be built. Anywho, getting back to just kind of the passion of work. So now, right, I've on this YouTube video, I've gone about 8 minutes, and it's probably closer to 8 o'clock. So I have this temptation to get really freaked out about work, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And yesterday was the same thing. I got to work a lot later. It was like closer. It was more like 8:45 or 9. No, wait a minute. No, it was later than that particular day. And so the defense mechanisms were rising up. It's like, well, I had a sick day the day before, so there's that temptation to not be in integrity. If someone were to ask you, well, I was getting well. Well, that wasn't the case. I felt fine yesterday, so it wasn't that. I'm not going to do that because I want to live in integrity and truth. There is the other one is tonight. Actually, I'm going to be working a work event from 5 to 7 at night. So there's that. Not just the fact of, okay, there's the time made up, but having to tell people and avoid the reputation of, because they're just seeing that you're coming in late in the morning. They're not seeing that you're working later on another time, or other types of things I work where I come in super early or leave super late or travel or whatever. They're just, again, it's like people are, and I'm putting this on them, that they're seeing that lens. And in the 3D reality, we're comparing ourselves with each other. So it's like, well, they got this and I got that, so that's not fair. So the fairness thing and all that versus people getting what they need. So there was those auto thoughts. So for today, right, I'm coming in late, and it's like, ooh, well, let's see. And then, again, the auto defense. Yesterday, I actually stayed at work until about 6 p.m. And I took a picture of my car being the only car in the parking lot again, so I could kind of cover myself. What if someone watches this video and then starts taking me to task on this and say, Nicholas, I watched that video. We need to have a talk. But you know what? I'd almost invite that. I'd say, let's have a talk. Let's have a talk about this. Because who knows, it might even lead to me having a heart-to-heart about whether I stay in the current paradigm of job I'm in and say, you know what? I don't want to live under those rules if they're going to try to, batten down the hatches and put the control thing there. I'd say maybe I'll move to something completely remote, or maybe I'll move to something where that's not an issue. So there's those thoughts. I mean, it can lead you in another adventure when this channel's called Authentic Life, when you're being authentic. So let's see, I think there was something else. Oh yeah, so this morning, right now, I could just whip off these sheets and just run to work. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in there, I'm going to take a shower, and then I'm going to go out there and I'll probably make myself some food and take care of myself. Well, Nicholas, what can you do why are you waking up so late? Well, the truth is I've been doing this thing where I've been getting up, like last night I was up for an hour and a half meditating and doing breath work. And typically if I can get to bed at about 7:30 or 8 at night, then I can do that and still wake up at 5 a.m. and be ready to go and have, get to quote unquote work on time. Again, I don't really have an on time for being a salaried employee. And they don't pay you extra for staying late. So there's not really that. But I could, and within my control, I could go to bed earlier and try to do that type of thing. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the shower. I'm going to have some breakfast. I'm going to do my sun salutations so I take care of my back and take care of my body. I have to drive to work, so I'm going to try to, make myself pretty today and get my hair combed and do all that stuff. Again, that's just stuff that is expected if you're going to come into the office. It's the old paradigm, like on your own time, get yourself ready and get yourself looking nice here. Don't just walk in off the street in your pajamas. I took some time to do some breath work. That's already done. I took some time to listen to one YouTube offering on the human ascension and from the extraterrestrials and things like that before, because that was important to me. I even woke up at one point, I think it was 6 or 6:30 or near 7, and I was just feeling very cozy in this bed, and so I was just enjoying it. And I took some time to look at the dreams that I cataloged, because I have vivid dreams when I do that breath work and meditation at night. And I was, you'll see a post there about the dream journal, and I went ahead and took some time to reflect on my dreams, and I actually got some really good insights that are probably going to change my life today and make it not just Groundhog Day, not just make it a repeat of yesterday where I lived the same day over and over again, but now I'm going to go into there with some new insights. So making that space. I think there was something I wanted to say lastly. Let me think for a second on that. Maybe it's just about the hustle and bustle again of the synchronicities at work. When I go to work today, yesterday I did this, and it was great. I had things because I was sick the day before and a half a day before that, and coming off of Thanksgiving. Everybody was out, but I was out an extra day. So there was some things to do. And I just took care of them as they needed to be taken care of. And they came up, and some things I said, that doesn't really need to be done right now. And some things I thought, usually my rule on my Outlook tasks, I wouldn't do that one. I would just batch it and do it later. But I'd say, you know what, I feel like I should answer that person right now. So I'm trying to lean more into my intuition and say, not only does this need to get done, what needs to get done, doesn't need to get done, because that could be a taskmaster, but also just say, what do I feel in my heart I prefer to do right now? And, I would get some request from some person. I'd be like, you know what, I'd like to help this person right now and take care of this one. And so there was the have to do's, and then there was the want to do's, or even just in general saying, you know what, I think generally I'd like to take care of this major task right now. My heart is in brainstorming, or my heart is in cleaning up or organizing my day, or my heart is in taking the walk with my coworkers. And so all of that plays into kind of a tapestry that's a little bit beyond just thinking with my head. And so whether I stay in my current job for another year, another 5 years, or whether I go on to something different, I'd like to take this mentality that I'm building of just not being in the hustle and bustle, taking time for me first, and seeing how that serves me. Again, if someone wants to take me to task and say, you need to do it our way, I'm not necessarily going to fight them. I'm just going to say, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that system and, how if I'm willing to do that. Well, if you're not willing to do that, you're out of here. I think that's just one of those fears. No one's really going to say that. But if they did, I'll say, well, let's just cross that bridge. I'm not worried about my life. I will be taken care of. So going to those primal fears of, you could lose your job. It's like, well, I don't think it's going to come to that. Well, let's see. You could lose a raise because you're not competing to death to try to please everybody and excel and overachieve. Well, okay, that's fine. I've never really been motivated by the money anyhow, so that's pretty easy for me. I say, just don't give me that extra. I mean, when it comes to raises, God bless them, but it's really a lot less value than who we are as human beings. So if you make umpteen amount and it's the difference of killing yourself to get, even if someone could measure it the right way and say, well, you'll get a 4% raise versus a 3% raise this year. Or even let's make it more drastic. You're going to get a 1% raise versus a 5% raise. Who cares? I mean, you could, if you worked a certain way in this universe with abundance that's available to us, you could have a 100% raise just because of circumstances changing in your life. So I'd rather live a quality of life where I feel unhustled and I'm actually doing the right things at the right time that make me feel good and also take care of others. So, I mean, in a holistic society, we're looking to take care of others, but not just by the rules. We're not going to just keep at each other by the rules, but we're going to look beyond that and just say, hey, what do you need? What do you need? No, what do you need? And everybody gets what they need. And it'll make work, we call it work, but it'll feel more like we're working in service. In jobs they say, we're all family here. Or don't call it work. It's like you get to do it, or it's service, or things like that. It'll be more authentic. It'll really feel like, you know what? This is my purpose. This is my mission. This is my service. I get up each day and I want to do this. And I want to work with these people. And this really does feel like a family. I feel like we're just human beings living on a planet, doing things together, playing together at more and more sophisticated levels, but we're like playing with each other as we do all this stuff versus having to do it at work, like some futuristic version of just working in some, if you like get the image in just working in the plant back 100 years ago and 1900s, just slaving away and practically having the boss crack a whip over you, but just cleaning up the clothes and cleaning up a few things, and here we are. But throw it more into the future and just imagine it just being a real joy to do everything. So right now, I'm going to end this video. I'm going to hopefully more and more see that voice in my head freaking me out and trying to push me and just fall away, because I've noticed it leave lately, and so I'd like to have that as a permanent habit. I'm going to get out of this bed, go take a shower, go get some food, do a sun salutation on that yoga mat there, and I'm going to have a great and wonderful day. You have a great day too. Bye-bye.